next week, 30 Friday, Saturday at the Qantas Credit Union Arena. You can. Ticketek.com.au for the Sydney Darts Masters, but Peter Wright here hoping to light up the Perth Darts Masters against Paul Nicholson, who, of course, born in the northeast of England, but made his name, as far as his darting career was concerned, here in Australia, based in Melbourne, and he dominated 6 or 7 years ago the Australian darts scene. Played in the Grand Slam, qualified for the World Championship, joined the PDC full-time. Memorably, 5 years ago, won the Players' Championship, won a TV major within a couple of years of joining the PDC. But his career has been on the slide for the last 12 months, Paul Nicholson. In complete contrast, Peter Wright now in the top 4 in the world. A career which looked over when he gave up darts a decade ago. And now look at him. One of the best we have.
Certainly one of the colourful. I loved him in Japan. The amount of Mohicans we see there is incredible. Probably had more fans there than Phil Taylor and Michael van Gerwen. He has dressed up for the occasion. It looks like they're snake-like trousers he's got on. Certainly the shoes are. Love the shoes, by the way, Stu. Yeah. I've got to get a pair of those.
The green and gold, of course, the Australian colours for both Peter Wright and for Paul Nicholson. Very proud to play for Australia in the World Cup of Darts, Paul Nicholson. I'm not so sure that Peter Wright would be very proud of those shoes.
Nothing wrong with those shoes, Stu. Like there's nothing wrong with Peter Wright's darts at the moment. It takes hours to do that hair and the paint in the head. It's certainly one of the most recognisable players in the world of darts.
He's reinvented himself, pure and simple, hasn't he? And what a good job he's done. And he's backed it up with some terrific darts. Of course, got to the final in Japan 6 weeks ago. Lost out in a deciding leg to Phil Taylor, Peter Wright. He came from 7-2 down to force a 15th leg. And Taylor pinched it. But in control in the opening leg here against Paul Nicholson.
Now a 14-dart leg. 14 darts it is, a very tidy opening start, opening leg to Peter Wright's campaign in the Perth Masters. Paul Nicholson, he's got to get his form back. It really is struggling.
What's gone wrong with Paul Nicholson? He's now out of the world's top 32, and at this stage he hasn't qualified, and isn't on course to qualify for the World Championship, down to number 35 in the rankings. What looked like being a fantastic, promising darts career. What's gone wrong?
Well, he's taken his eye off the ball. He started to have the aggressive hard man attitude walking onto the stage, and if you're going to do that, then you've got to live up to it. You've got to throw the darts, and it started to get at him, and he didn't know how to stop it. Well, and he said he was going to walk up without the glasses, without that, but he's still walking up with them. And if you're going to do it, then you have to stick with it, but you've got to produce the darts, and it's not.
He made himself out, and he created a persona as the bad boy of darts, didn't he? But then changed his mind. And then sort of got caught in limbo, not sure what to do, whether to carry on with the bad boy reputation or to try and turn things around. I think also, I have to say that he perhaps started to think about the game too much.
Definitely.
And
you're absolutely right.
Made too many changes. Listen, if you win a TV major and you beat Phil Taylor on the way to winning it, you're a good darts player. So, there's no doubt Paul Nicholson is a really good darts player, but somewhere along the line he's lost his way.
Well, we could name probably another dozen players in the last 5 to 6 years that's actually gone down the same route as Paul. It's a shame, but there's no sympathy in this game. You're not going to play players that are going to let you win just to stay up there. They're going to bury you. with all the youngsters and the Challenge Tour players coming through. No room for mediocre darts anymore. Peter Wright has proved it. That's a 14 dart leg. 107 average for Peter Wright. And so this consistency from Wright, which he's shown now for 2 to 3 years, he's going to keep Wright certainly up there in the rankings.
Well, the highlight for me in Japan, not necessarily the way that he came back in the final to beat Phil Taylor. I think it was more about the way that he came back in the semi-final to beat to beat Michael van Gerwen. Taylor beat Anderson in a thrilling semi-final, and you may remember Peter Wright was 7-6 down to Michael van Gerwen in Japan.
Well, he took out the 1-4-1 and decided
in the deciding leg with van Gerwen sat on 44 to go through to the final. It was absolutely incredible, and that one visit, that one checkout encapsulated what Peter Wright has done over the last 2 years.
And it was ironic that in the other semi-final between Anderson and Taylor, Anderson took out the wrong shot that cost him the match.
Indeed.
Back to this game, it certainly is an impressive start for Peter Wright. Look at the averages. Look at the averages of Paul Nicholson. I'm sorry, you're not going to win an argument with averages like that from Nick.
112 plays 70. I think the first 2.5 legs of this match have just encapsulated what we were saying. Double 18 for Peter Wright. And he will return, but it's shown perfectly how one player is on the up and the other at the moment is on the slide. We can only hope that Paul Nicholson can get his act together, can rediscover his touch. You can see there what he said after that dart went in the 5, and get to the stage. I'm sure that when it doesn't go quite right, the harder you try, the worse it gets. Well, I'm surprised to split it. Yeah, I thought he would have. I thought he would have done that there.
Yeah, I thought 2-8.
He might split it next time around. We shall see.
The problem is Paul is not putting any pressure on.
No.
He's thrown 15 darts and still wants over 200. You know, and we've all been there. Paul's going through a torrid time at the moment. He's putting lots of pressure on himself, which is not working. That's probably the best thing that Peter Wright could have done, was hit that 9.
Well, he could have listened to you and split it.
Well, if he could have listened to me, he probably wouldn't have hit anything, to be quite honest. Yeah, the double 9 switch, not many people hit that cleanly. It's not the greatest of switch. I know they're professional, they should hit anything, but that's not the case with that double 9. Now we'll probably pin this double 4.
Well, there you go. He should have listened to you. He could have won this leg half a dozen darts ago, but it's 3-0 up. And it really is very easy, and you have to say all too easy for Peter Wright. Winner of this, and it very much looks like big Peter Wright, plays James Wade in the quarterfinals here on Saturday in Perth. Just to remind you, tickets for the Sydney Darts Masters next Thursday, Friday and Saturday on sale. Qantas Credit Union Arena, ticketek.com.au. If you're in Sydney, fancy watching the very best darts players in the world.
Well, Paul started this leg off really well with 2 treble 19s, but hasn't followed it up. Still got 3 dart advantage, and that's Peter Wright fires in a maximum. And there's 2. Certainly a colourful Peter Wright, and they keep talking about snakes, and that's the biggest snake I've seen for a long time on the side of his head there. If you met up with one of those when you're on your walks, I think you'd do a runner, Steve.
Lovely smooth throwing action, producing darts like that. It is, as far as Paul Nicholson is concerned, embarrassingly one-sided.
55.
The majority of Paul's darts are lower the target as well. Just losing a little bit of the power. And he doesn't have to go for the bullseye, so he'll just can go for the 20 or the 12. 20 will lead in the 16s.
49.
And again, Paul Nicholson too far away to do any damage. This would be another breaker throw. And a wry smile from Nicholson, especially on those two darts, says it all.
Well, he had the right idea. He was going for a 180. Even though he would have left double six to give himself a bit of a spark. In the end, it's academic. It doesn't matter. It's 4-0. And Perth Darts Masters 2015 is going very wrong for Paul Nicholson. Probably just had to take himself back to those good times when he won that major, the Players' Championship finals in 2010 in the Circus Tavern. Beat Mervyn King in the final after beating Phil Taylor in the semis.
Exactly right. Yeah, sometimes you've just got to go back to basics. You've got to look at your practice regime. You've got to look at what you're doing. You know, off the board, is that working for you? And just try. You've got to change something. If you don't change something, then this won't change. And as I said, Stu, there's so many players that it's happened to that we've seen drift out thinking it's just going to stay there forever, and they never come back. It is so hard nowadays to get back after you've just lost that. I don't know, it's like a boxer. His first knockout, he's never the same, and certainly it was the dart players.
Well, he has got 3 weeks to try and sort himself out, because Paul Nicholson will also be playing in Sydney and at Auckland.
It could make it worse. I mean, 73 average, you know, he'll be the first to admit that's not going to frighten anyone. It's not going to win local league matches. And, you know, he could go to Perth and happen the same and really walk out of this World Series in turmoil. But tops for Peter Wright.
But again, no pressure. Paul Nicholson, here we are in the 5th leg of this match, still hasn't had a dart at a double. Double 10. Ooh, that was a real flyer. That wasn't. Double 5. It is. And it's 5-0 to Peter Wright. Well, all we can presume is that first dart slipped, because the second one was bang on the money.
Yeah, I think you call that a flyer. I mean, that was nearly as bad at any double dart at double 5 I think I've ever seen. But the double 12, the double 5 was nearly in the double 12. But it is 5-0 to Peter Wright. And although you could say that Paul Nicholson has made it easy for him, Peter Wright would play this sort of game even if someone was pushing him. Well, he's got that type of game now.
He's done what he's had to do, and he's not got out of second gear, but he's still played well.
Yeah, if you look at the stats, I mean, Peter Wright, 8 140s, 1 180. Nicholson has not hit a maximum or a 140 there, and the 140s are what you make your living from in this game, and certainly Paul is nowhere near it. He's hit a 137. He's only had one visit where he's hit 2 trebles, and that was a 137.
Just saw in that visit there after the second dart a shake of the head from Paul Nicholson.
45.
Resigned to his fate. Certainly tonight he will hope he isn't resigned to his darting fate. Dust himself down and get on with it. Still can't get a 140. Still hasn't had a dart at a double. Will this be the leg? Maybe.
44.
So a chance to avoid the whitewash. 6 darts from 156. He might need them.
80.
Well, he should have a dart at least at the double when he returns.
60.
Not a lot of pressure. Nicholson, the treble 20 will give him 2, but he's just got to make sure he doesn't miss the 20.
Just.
56.
His first dart and a double. And another shake in the head. Can Nicholson put him out of his Wright put Nicholson out of his misery here? I wonder.
45.
Well, Peter Wright is trying his hardest to give Paul Nicholson a leg. Nick doesn't want to split this double 10 with the first dart. Well, that's a good guide. Should be able to find the double 10 from there, and does. Puts a leg on the board, the first one for Paul Nicholson. Still finds himself 5-1 down, and that was with the throw. And now Peter Wright steps up to close this match off and to find himself in the quarterfinals here in Perth.
Against James Wade.
Well, coming up after this, Raymond van Barneveld, the 5-times world champion, takes on the Aussie #1, Simon Whitlock. And then to end the night, the world #1, Michael van Gerwen, takes on David Platt. A player that played on the professional circuit back home for a couple of years.
He did. More of that later. Paul Nicholson. Well, he's avoided the whitewash. I just wonder if he's relaxed a little. But even when he had a chance to get a 140, he hit a single one. All very disappointing.
60.
You know, it was possibly 3 years ago, perhaps 3.5 years ago, Paul Nicholson was 1 win at the World Championship away from getting a place in the Premier League.
Yes, you're right. He had 1 foot in the Premier League after winning the Tour Players Championships at the Circus Tavern, like we mentioned earlier. And then all of a sudden it just went, I don't know if it went to his head and he just
60.
thought it was going to happen. And some people have gone to the utmost to dress up Batman there. I mean, that is some outfit.
Oh, good to see you've made the effort as well.
Finally,
a 140!
I don't think I could get into that Batman suit.
And a chance here for back-to-back legs and a break of throw for Paul Nicholson.
Well, certainly a better leg. You know, this would be a 13 done, and this should perhaps move him on a little bit. 14 darts. That's better. The best leg of the match for Paul Nicholson. That's a break of throw, so if he holds on to his throw, 5-3, and you never know.
Peter Wright just switched off. The job was almost done. It's still almost done. He still needs 1 more leg.
60.
Peter Wright's appeared in 2 World Series finals.
140.
Lost them both. Dubai to Van Gerwen. Japan to Taylor. This is better.
140.
2 140s now for the man they call the asset. Will this be the year that Peter Wright finally wins a big TV major?
I think he's got a major in him. However, the longer he goes on without winning one, the harder it will get. Certainly going off the ball like this, he's not going to be able to do that against the other professionals. I mean, Paul Nicholson has got himself back into this game now.
140.
possibly 6 darts for Peter Wright from here.
100. Haiti require 161.
Well, that'll do nicely to leave double 14.
56.
So to complete
28.
a convincing win. Double 14 for Peter Wright.
Game shot.
Well, he got there at the end.
Peter Wright.
Peter Wright with a rueful shake of the head from Paul Nicholson. Well beaten here.